servant, let me be as Christ to you. Pray that I may have the grace to let you be my servant too.
We are pilgrims on a journey. We are travelers on the road. We are here to help each other walk the mile and bear the load. I will hold the Christ light for you in the night time of your fear. I will hold my hand out to you, speak the peace you long to hear. I will weep when you are weeping, when you laugh, I'll laugh with you. I will share your joy and sorrow till we've seen this journey through. Will you let me be your servant? Let me be as Christ to you. Pray that I may have the grace to let you be my servant too.
Good evening to all listeners and viewers on Good News Catholic Communication Network and radio. And as many of you may be wondering, conversation with Bishop, isn't that supposed to be in the morning? But however, we are having it this evening. And it is amazing how the Spirit works as we were opening the song, Would You Let Me Be Your Servant? And it's amazing because we are celebrating Emancipation Weekend. And we have to ask ourselves, what does this mean for us in this context? A servant not forced, but voluntarily. As we looked at the photo, at the slideshow happening, we saw a joy emanating from serving. And then we have to ask ourselves, what does emancipation mean for us in that context? Is it that we can do whatever we want without ever considering our true purpose, our divine purpose? However, that is a conversation that probably we will have another time or probably during the show. But it helps us to understand what does emancipation mean for us as we step into that Emancipation Weekend. And with that, I say another good night to you. And I know Bishop, I don't think Bishop will fall asleep. I think he's glowing here in the studio. So Bishop, good night, and I hope you had a wonderful day.
Good evening. You just only say good night when you're going.
Yes.
Right? Last time you see
I know that, but I said it at the beginning, so man.
I'm glad you say you know. Yes, good evening, friends. Evening, everybody. And well, the song says it all. In addition to Emancipation Weekend, this Tuesday was the 8th anniversary of my tenure as Bishop of St. George's in Grenada. What a time it has been. And as I keep saying to people who ask me, it's been weird, because on the one hand, it's been rough. On the one hand, I've had experiences that I would rather not have had. But then on the other hand, there's been this deep sense of the Lord shaping me, melting, molding, and so on, through it all. So that I've had real joy in the midst of these difficult times. I can confess, and if I have the opportunity, maybe at the end of my tenure, we'll have a mass with a rite of reconciliation. But I know that I haven't always been how much I ought to be, because the word sin really means to fall short. And I have certainly fallen short of myself, and I'm sure fallen short of some of your expectations, and of course fallen short of God's expectations. But some wonderful things have happened in the process, and even what we are sharing tonight is part of the wonderful thing, because Good News Catholic Communications, which when I came was just Good News Radio, has become really one of the pillars of the diocese, and it has potential to be so much more. You know, all we have to do is to have somebody take out a $5 million policy, insurance policy, make the diocese the beneficiary, and then die. Well, I hope you all can take that in the spirit of my corny humor. But we would love to be able to do something really great, because so many things in the course of thinking about this 8th anniversary, I become more and more clear that the Catholic Church has a message for Grenada, has gifts to offer Grenada, which nothing else can, no other organization can. And as I listen to other people talking about various things, I am very proud of where the diocese is, although I am also very scared because there's so much more to be done, and the resources seem to be not there to get it done. So I want to thank everybody who has been a part of this 8th year. They know themselves, those who have walked with us through the difficult days and so on, those who have been very good at pointing things out, at leading the way. One of the things that stands out in this year is the Carriacou pilgrimage, which just was suggested. We ran with it. At first it seemed as if, oh God, it ain't coming off. And then it came off wonderful. And I'm just waiting for the reverse pilgrimage to take place. I hope we can manage that. But that sense of communion with Carriacou and Petit Martinique, we have to confirm the Petit Martinique idea and have a pilgrimage from Petit Martinique to Grenada. But all of these things will come in due time. So, brothers and sisters, thank you for everything that you have done. But why are we meeting you on this Thursday? Kishan hinted at it when he started, but I want to put a little bit more meat on his bones. Really, the core team here, that is Derek, Ruthina, and Dwayne, and myself, along with Mrs. Meniz, who is the chairman of the Diocesan Communications Commission. We've been thinking a bit about what can we do to bring my program, as Ruthina always calls it, to a more central place in the general communication setup in Grenada. And we've been talking about it, thinking about it. We haven't been able, at first we thought we would tamper with the formula of the meeting, the session, the conversation on a Thursday morning. But we weren't able to find another formula that would work better. And then we decided, let's go night. Let's find an evening when it's great and when it provides good opportunities, and let's do that. So we said that, but you know, kind of lazy. You take a long time to get it going, and I wasn't sure myself whether we could compete with all those other WeFM and so on that seemed always to have GBN, to have something on in the evening that other people want to look at. And then it just so happened that this Thursday was falling at an awkward time. Father Kufre's absence meant that I was responsible for the Cathedral Midday Mass. So the question was, how do we fit all of that in, you know? The morning Mass, the midday Mass, the conversation, and so on. And then Dwayne said to me, why not do the conversation in the evening? And I was thinking we need to change the name, but that will come in due course. So this is an experiment, right? So call in, and let us know how you feel about experimenting with this. What are the things you would like to see? You know, what might we do better? So you can call in 435-0143 and join the conversation. And remember, the whole purpose of everything we do here is spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ, which is the good news that God is with us, that God saves us, that God overlooks our sins, that we have no need to fear, be not afraid. And as that message, of course, one of the challenges with the message, especially at Carnival time, is that people don't see the ways in which they are falling short of what God would ask of them. They really don't see. And they do all kinds of stupidness and think they're enjoying themselves. But in truth and in fact, they may well be degrading themselves. But we want to be able, to get back to the main point, to see whether an evening program would work, whether it's Thursday evening or some other evening. How can we organize a program? What should we do with such a program? Should it be topical? Should it be taking some particular issue that is on at the same time? I am very open to having people come and talk about what's happening in Grenada at any particular point in time, but always with a view to enriching people's consciousness, opening people's minds, proclaiming truth. Because as I listen to so many of the programs on the radio, it's people quarreling and, that's not what we want on this program. We want a basic commitment to doing the best we can to create the best Grenada out of what God has given us. So that's where we are.
And Bishop, as you said, yes, it's an experiment, but we also have a message that they would like to hear too, and they will hear the message at some point during the program.
Tell me what message you're talking about.
Don't worry, really, you know the message, but they would hear it later on during the program, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. And once they stay tuned in, and also it's not just about calling in, it's about, calling that friend that you have that watches conversation and just reminding them, are you watching? Conversation is on. Bish is on. Right?
Bish. Somebody might say Bish. And friends, when you behave that way, I don't mind. Huh? I mean, I am... God has given me this personality where people say what they want to say, do what they want to do. Sometimes you get a little bit concerned because you don't know whether you're hurting people. But generally speaking, I love the fun of the exchange. So will you let me be your servant?
Oh, yes.
Let me be as Christ for you. Pray that I may have the grace to let you be my servant too. So you see, I wash your foot there, you must then wash mine too. And if I do wipe your face, make sure you do not.
And Bishop, as you went into that song, I think it's a good way to transition to reflecting a little bit on your 8th anniversary.
Really want to hear about that?
Well, Bishop, I remember when it was announced, I remember looking at the press conference that Trinity had with you. And, many people were high expectation. They were happy. The diocese was happy. Finally had a bishop announced.
Finally.
Finally. And I'm sure that, as you said, the 8 years has been rough at some times. But the question that I always have in the back of my mind, what inspires you most about your faith?
My faith?
Yeah. What inspires you most about your faith
Brother man,
that 8 years?
I have one fundamental thing. My motto is loving kindness, and I try to live that. I fail a lot at it. But the one thing that comes back again and again, God loves you, no matter what. God loves you. And I have a deep sense of that. And I know it comes from the fact that my experience of life has been not only God loves me, From the time I was born, that's the feeling I have. I have been loved. I listen with pain to some people talking about how they have not been loved. And, people come into the office and they have these horrible experiences of how people have used and abused them. And I can't help but say, Lord, where are you in all of that? But I have always known myself as loved by family, and over the years, at different stages, by some wonderful friends. I spent 3 years in Belgium and made some friends then who are unforgettable. You know, I don't see them as much, and I think I've lost contact with a number of them because they have grown old like myself. But no, that sense of the positivity of life, that no matter what you do, you are loved. That is what has been the core, you know, so that even when I was going through a difficult time, and this is where this ring on my finger is so important, you know, because there were times when I wanted to take off the ring and say to hell with all of them. And I would hold the ring to take it off. And it always gives me trouble to come off. But in the playing with the ring, I'm reminded that ring is a sign that you have a commitment to people, to the people of Grenada, you know. I'm not married to any other diocese. It's this diocese. That is one of the things that will be painful when you have to give it up. That is like bringing a marriage to an end, yes. But you are aware that, okay, no, well, I'm not going to another diocese. I'm not being asked.
Unless you become an archbishop.
No. No, I mean, I can tell you, no, very confidently, that will never happen. Okay? Right. So, no, it's not about that. It's about a new way. Like, one of the things that I am clear about is that whenever I leave this diocese to hand it over to somebody else, I must hand it over. That means I must leave and give whoever comes the space to be his own man in this diocese, to throw away whatever of my tenure he doesn't like, and to choose his own tenure. And if he chooses to ask me to help him with something, I'm willing to help. But to lay down the crozier, you know, and I have that very much in my mind sometimes, that the day comes when you lay down the crozier. If I die before a new bishop comes, then put the crozier in the coffin or the casket or wherever, you know. But to lay down the crozier is an important symbol, but you keep the ring. I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, I understand where you're going and how it has impacted you. Basically, the love of the people, the love of God, experience and the love of God through the people, loving kindness. And you also sharing it. It would have been a great inspiration for you. At your should I say, was it Episcopal ordination? How significant it was to have both Bishops Emeritus Sidney Charles, Archbishop Joe Harris, and the Nuncio Nikolai
Girasoli, which means sunflower.
Especially as Bishop Emeritus and Archbishop partake in the laying of hands. It was how significant that was.
Well, that is always in many ways the most significant moment in terms of your becoming a bishop. It is at that moment that you become a bishop, right, with the laying on of hands. The people who do it has its own importance. You know, Archbishop Girasoli was the one who persuaded me, you know, because he had been nuncio in Trinidad, and we had talked from time to time about the situation in Grenada. And then one day he just said to me, you know, the Holy Father wants you to go to Grenada. And I said, but I'm 68 years old. What are you putting me in that for? You know, you need somebody younger and so on. And he said something which I believed, only to discover it was not altogether true, that everybody wants you. If you want, you know. So I said yes. There were one or two things that I was asked to do that I didn't like doing too much, but I eventually said yes, and I came, and I was very happy coming, very, very happy coming. There was some people in Trinidad who showed me a different side of themselves. You know, there's one person particularly whom I will never forget, a Chinese girl called Helena Alam. She helped me pack, she helped the design of the program, and she was amazing. She died subsequently. But, and then, as we were singing, as we were listening to the hymn, the song, Will You Let Me Be Your Servant, I remembered, people like Ronnie Marichaud, who went out of their way to make sure that the music was to my satisfaction, and I think it was, So there were so many things that happened. One of the things that was dangerous and proved to be really problematic was that normally a bishop has 3 months to be ordained. And Archbishop Girasoli says to me, you only have 6 weeks. What the hell are you talking about? And he said, the Holy Father wants you ordained in 6 weeks. I couldn't doubt him. So I had to pack it all into 6 weeks. I remember Father Clifton Harris being very concerned about whether it could be done. Father Sean had a lot to do with getting it done. But it got done, and it showed that Grenada was able to do certain things. Some things we weren't able to do them as we would have liked. But again, things just turned out well. And I have to give full marks to Father Hugh for the design of the backdrop at Spice Basket. That's one thing I will never forget. The backdrop made it look as if you were right there in the cathedral. He's a great artist, and I hope he nurtures those gifts. I don't see him painting too much now. So everything just turned out right. And then beach with the bish.
Oh, yes.
That was powerful. And I saw people there whom I hadn't seen in years. At least the ordination was another, one of the other powerful things about it. Some of the people whom I'd grown to love and care for over the years came. And I didn't know they were coming. No. I really didn't know they were coming from the States, from England, from Canada. I was really, it was a very moving. I remember us walking in the procession to go to the altar and then seeing one or two people on the side. Anyway, that was that.
So, we can speak about the reflection for the entire night. But
let's not
shift it. Just 2 more questions before we go for the break.
All right, it's your show.
So, that is saying, you have to move on.
No.
Just joking. Bishop, you would have had your ordination to the diaconate in Grenada. Diaconate in Grenada. And then being called to return to serve as bishop. What were your emotions at that time?
You should ask, did I have any emotions? No, I look upon that whole ordination of the diaconate as prophetic. Sidney Charles had been a man I'd grown to love. I had come to help him in a little way, and very few people know that it was in Grenada and out of Grenada that I clarified whether I wanted to be a priest or not.
Okay.
I came to Grenada to do something with Father Michel de Vertaille, and then went back to Trinidad. At that time, I was still saying to myself, Lord, I really want to come to this thing.
So wondering if you should go married and have a family.
Yes, with 6 children.
Okay.
Yes, so, all of that was at play. And then I came and I met this wonderful group of young people, enthusiastic for the kingdom, Popular and Progressio, Judy Williams, It was just an awesome experience. The sessions were held at the convent. And So I went back to Trinidad and said to myself, yes, Lord, I think I can. I think I can make that commitment. It was a commitment to priesthood. It was a commitment to resurrection, a commitment born of the fact that Grenada and the Caribbean were going through this tremendous change thanks to everything that was happening.
Okay, and one last question before we go for the break, Bishop. As you're getting ready to transition out of the role of bishop as leader, shepherd for the diocese, what advice would you give to a future bishop?
Start from scratch. No, I'm very clear on that. Don't presume anything.
Okay.
Because that's a fundamental mistake that I made. I presumed a lot in terms of people. I presumed a lot in terms of resources, only to discover that it wasn't what I thought it was. And the adjustment to moving from what you think to what is. Now, I think that's a very maturing moment. So I don't have any regrets about the fact that I had to shift from what I wanted to do to be able to see what was possible given the diocese that I have. And I speak with my dear friend in St. Vincent about this regularly. He's a great Bishop County, because he became bishop in St. Vincent about 2 years before I did. And we've had similar experiences in many ways.
I don't need to cut you. As I said, I did not have any difficulties in switching. We have to switch as we do have a caller on the line.
Oh, good.
Good evening, caller, and welcome.
Hello, good night.
Hi,
Good night. Gosh, that's a voice.
My Lord Bishop, good night.
Good night, my dear. Good evening.
I'm just wondering, what can we do as Catholics to assist the young people some of them are so violent? What can we do as Catholics openly? Sometimes we know we are praying, but not everybody knows that we are praying. And we want to pray and to get them involved, to change their attitude. Even the parents, some of them, the parents are not, I would say that they're immature. They don't know how to deal with the children. And according to how they deal with them, then social worker and police come in and get involved. What can we do as a church to help them to be more Christ-like and to attend church service and get more involved in positive things?
Excellent question, really excellent question. Because it's a question for which we have no answers right now, right? One of the ways in which I've had to suspend my judgment is that we have not had an active youth ministry for a while. But one of the things that I feel is important now when we are beginning again is your question becomes so important. What can we do? And the we, I take it, is not just you. It's you're aware that you can't do it by yourself. And therefore, we have to get our parishes, and this has been one of the disappointments. COVID cut us off. COVID made us lock ourselves inside. Now we have to open the doors again. And we have to be able to see that our young people are not people to be afraid of. I do not believe that the first responsibility is to get them in church. The first responsibility is to make the connection with them, whoever we are, to learn how to listen to our young people more, to encourage them more, I keep saying to my priests that my experience tells me that young people don't come to the church unless the priest opens up some part of the church community to them. I've had that in my various parishes. It was one point it was a church hall, another point it was the actual presbytery where I lived. But young people like to know that they're welcome, because many of them do not have homes in which either they can feel welcome or in which they can welcome other young people. So when they have a space in which they know young people are welcome, oh boy, you'll be surprised at what happens. They come. And I have some happy memories of church halls and of presbyteries where this was actually happening all along. Some of my best friends now are young people who were practically living in my presbytery, you know, and I thank God for them. So this openness to them where they are, to listening to them, to encouraging them, to spending some money on food because young people want food, you know. And some young women want to be able to show you what they could cook. And if it hurts your belly, that's a different question, you know. But it's this sense of creating community around the young. And the other part of that for you, my questioner, is that, you know, there are some older people who can be focal points for young people in a parish. If you can cook well, if you know how to listen, you'd be surprised at how young people will come around you, you know. I have some very happy memories of Noel and Gloria David in San Fernando, you know, of Luz Birmingham in Gonzales, of people who opened their hearts and their lives to young people. And boy, they became powerful witnesses. And especially in the case of people like Mr. and Mrs. David, people looked at the two of them, a couple in their 70s, but yet caring about them. They had their own, I think it's 6 or 7 children to mine, but out of that experience, they turned, a lot of young people saw light and love and joy.
Bishop, it's also about how do we inspire them to see that they're more than just the superficial.
Treat them as such.
Exactly.
Let them know from the way you treat them, from the way you listen to them, from what you ask them to do, because they want to do things, you know, and we don't give them enough opportunity.
Yes, and if we look at parishes where there is a spark in the young people, you would see the difference in how they are treated and in how they see themselves, actually how the parish forms that community around them.
Yeah, but the answers don't come instantly. It's a lot of rough times, you know. You have those moments when all it takes is one foolish young person to spoil a group. You know, I remember having to say to a young woman once, why don't you get up off your butt and go and do something? She was just sitting there, you know. And I said it to her, she was very offended, but she got up. And it's been funny because later on we were the best of friends, you know. So we cannot give up on our young people. Let us not measure our young people by some fool with a gun in Wall Street. He's one young man, but there are a whole set of other people longing and yearning for church and for people to open the doors to the sports and so on. You know, that there are groups that you can work with. You have a football team in your neighborhood. Go one day when they're practicing or when you know they just come back from a match and carry a waiter full of sandwiches, you know, or get your grandson to carry down a box of drinks, even if it's only water. You see, these are the things that show that you care, and let the organizers especially, because the people who are working with young people, so often they have to reach into their own pocket. And if we who are looking from outside, and we can just criticize them and say, oh God, they come back from the match and they make so much noise, or we can say, hey, all you win, all you lose, well. And they know you care by the gifts you bring.
So, thank you, Bishop. And on that note, I think we'll take a break and stay with us. When we come back, we have many more to speak about. One, we'll hear about the cannabis meeting and much more. So we'll take a break and we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Will you let me be your servant? Let me be as Christ to you. Pray that I may have the grace to let
Diocesan t-shirts are available for purchase. Early bird prices. Regular adult t-shirt for $35. Children's t-shirt for $25. Or upgrade to a polo t-shirt for only $45. Call 473-459-4612 to place your order now. Let's live church, build community, and serve country. We are Grandcath and proud.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers, to Good News Catholic Communication. You are tuned in to Conversation with the Bishop. And as we returned on a bit of a sad note. Father Kufre's absence and the cathedral, and Bishop will help us understand as to why Father Kufre is absent and what will happen in Father Kufre's absence.
I don't know if I will help you understand. I presume you know already. No, news travels fast in Grenada. But Father Kufre has gone, and as he said, he had a beautiful Mass last Wednesday, and as he said that he'll be away for a while. He is now the patriarch of his family, the eldest living son. So we were planning all kinds of things in terms of going forward. And I was certainly looking forward to working with him over the next 2 months. But now I have to make up for his absence, and that is turning out to be not that easy, because we don't have the priests to run the show. Father Kufre and Father Raymond Inaide, they were at the cathedral together. Father Inaide helped with the masses and so on. And Father Kufre was really on his own with the administration, but he liked what he was doing and he had a good secretary, so things were working well. But now we don't have anybody living at the cathedral to replace him. So I had to take the crazy decision to become administrator of the cathedral myself. Now what that means is you have 2 masses every day, right? And 6:15 and 12:15, except Saturday. And then you have to deal with people coming in for various requests, something to be blessed. And so the secretary handles a lot of these things, thanks be to God. But I can only ask you to pray for us. I have already asked the priests to be generous with offering their assistance when they can. And we've had some of that already. And then let's see how it works out. I was very happy to get a reasonable bill of health. My doctor tells me I won't die soon, so I hope he's right. But, I love sometimes to just roll over in the bed and say,
is your doctor God? Is your doctor God?
Is my doctor God? Well, some doctors think they are, so you have to humor them. You have to humor them, Just as sometimes we priests and bishops think we're God sometimes too. At least we claim to represent God. But I ask you here to do a few things. One is to pray for Father Kufre, because it is never easy. The role that he now has to play, I've played it once or twice in my own family, so I know how difficult it can be. And then to pray for the diocese. As I wrote the priest today, we have a promise of some priests to come. And I am already clear that some of them will have to go to places that have been promised priests for a long time, which means that they're not going to really resolve the immediate problems that have arisen because of certain things with Father Daniel Schwartz going back to the Arctic and so on. But we'll work it out. And I am confident because Grenada has been through some crazy times when it comes to being without priests. At first, people talk to you and give you the impression, oh, we want a priest, we've always had a priest. That's not true. Grenada has known times when there were 2 priests for the whole island. You know, I ask myself and I ask the people who tell me, because it's within the lifetime of people who are still alive, you know. So we will work it out. And we have some problematic situations. There are some people who I can't ask to do ministry, but that's how it is.
Yes, no, Bishop, as you said, Father Daniel Schwarzenegger, you know, he has really become a household person in the community, I must say. At funerals, people are saying, oh, that's one of the best priests they've ever seen. And he's getting his hands on if there's a problem. At one of the funerals, I'm sorry we don't have the clip. The slab for the tomb was a little big. And he got on top. He was using trowel, plastering, and helping.
He spoiled all you.
Not all you. But, you know...
you see, I don't know if I should take that up, you know, but, no, it's a problem because when one priest does that, I don't know what's wrong, but the other priests don't seem to say, that's the example I want to follow, you know. They say,
well, it's different personality.
Yes, that is important to stress.
Yes.
But it creates as many difficulties as it resolves. Because I don't envy anybody who has to go into...
Probably one of the things that the seminary should do is ensure that each priest learn a skill.
But if you know how that came to my mind the other day, that we should not ordain anybody who does not have a skill, a normal human skill that any father of a family would be happy to have, right? I mean, and Father Daniel didn't take no big set of learning to get his skills. The day when he was in the retreat, retreat in where was it? In the same, no, it was in Grenville, I think, when he went and pushed the boat.
Oh, yes.
I mean, people were, you know. No, he's an amazing character, and we thank God for allowing him to share our life. But let me make one other thing clear, you know. There are some people who are great priests, but they can't do any of what Father Daniel is doing. And when I think of somebody like Father Gabriel Osang, who has been ill, there are 1 or 2 other priests who have serious medical problems. Don't expect them to be like Daniel Schwartz. You know, they won't be able to make it. And yet, if I take Father Augustus Umana as an example, the way he deals with people has a similar effect, you know.
So I guess, you know, as a people, we have to learn to embrace and appreciate each person's ability and personality. Yes. So as we end, we say condolences again to Father Kufre and the passing of his dad and the family, and we ask for eternal rest of his soul. Bishop, for a few years now, we have been hearing about the decriminalization of cannabis. And lately in the news, it seems to me that there has been some spin in the wheel, if I should say.
Yep.
Towards that in that process.
Well, it's been a longish journey, because about 4 years ago, Representative Peter David, who was Minister of Agriculture, I think, at the time, was also going around feeling out views on cannabis and legislation. The present regime has brought things closer. There is an official committee headed, the lady's name slips me now, but they have put out a document. It's not a bill, it's not a draft bill, it's a document inviting public comment. And they presented it this afternoon at a meeting at the youth center. And it's an interesting document. What I was very happy about is that people were not afraid to criticize it. And you had policemen, you had social workers, you had a nice range of people there. And the committee itself, which includes people like Assistant Commissioner Cohen, and Betty Ann Lazarus, who was working with the Ministry of Agriculture. I understand that Anselm Clouden is also on the committee. So it's a small but seemingly effective committee, and they were asking us our views. Basically, people are saying that they accept, the government is saying there must be a 21-year limit age on the consumption of marijuana, right? So nobody under 21 years should be consuming marijuana publicly. That's going to be a hard one to put into effect, but it sets a standard for the nation, you know. Then they also are trying to protect children. And the people at the meeting today were speaking very, very strongly about that. The need to educate the population, you know, about the dangers, because...
So we do have a caller on the line, okay. And good evening, caller, and welcome.
Good evening, Bishop.
Hi.
Bishop, it is long past my bedtime.
Well, what are you calling, for me to put you to sleep?
I want you to come and read a bedtime story for me.
That will be the comment of the night.
Yes.
You know, three little wolves trying to take a smoke.
Yes. But I missed last week's program, and I think at one before that. Mm-hmm. And I did not know I had so many fans. That
well, if you have so many fans, you don't need air condition.
People are saying, when Mr. Philbert. Mm-hmm. But I joined the program late, so I don't know talking about, but I just want to say, Grenada is fraughten with excitement and news this weekend. First of all, we had this unfortunate bit of news about the couple that was murdered and thrown overboard, and the young men were given life imprisonment.
Oh, mm-hmm.
And somebody, you know, and some people were saying they're lucky they doesn't hang again, you know. They're lucky they doesn't hang people again. But as I think Anselm Clouden, Jerry, one of them said, if you go and check the background of the bringing up of these young people, you would really think twice before making such comments. And then, of course, we have this emancipation holiday, which I don't know if you commented on that already, tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And then following that is Carnival, which, as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, is the biggest cultural event of Grenada.
Mm-hmm.
Because some people think of Carnival just as Carnival, a lot of dancing and singing and jab. Mm-hmm. But it's a big melting pot of culture in Grenada. Because culture for people is how we speak, what we eat, how we dance, how we dress. All that is part of our culture. And all of that come to play during that week or two of Carnival. Talking about what we eat, talking about our famous oil, which I'm sure and which I hope that Bishop, you ate one or two good ones. You ate one or two good ones while in your sojourn in Grenada.
Oh yes, I've had one or two good ones.
Yes.
So good, in fact, that I now know what is not oil long.
And when you get in, I hope I don't offend nobody by saying that, but when you get in a good one, get somebody from St. David to make St. David people make the best oil long.
The Prime Minister's grandmother.
I'll go tell you a secret, I'm from St. David.
Drama tonight.
But what we eat, how we dance, you know, I sometimes think of I don't want to call it any religion, but some of the religious people will say everything is bad about carnival, but all during the year, they barbecue in 1 box of chicken by the side of the road. Carnival time, they barbecue in 4 boxes. That same religious Adventist person who find everything is bad about carnival.
Please. But Mr. Philbert,
and I'll call the name.
let me ask you a troublesome question.
Yes, Bishop.
You know, one of the things that we've seen happening with some of our so-called national festivals, Trinidad Carnival is one such festival. I think in Jamaica people made a similar comment, that when you look at Trinidad Carnival, the poor are no longer an integral part of it, you know. The people who are the core of the cultural heritage are pulling back from the festival. They're leaving it to the people who turn it into an economic festival, and where the costumes are costing so many hundreds of dollars, which the poor can't afford. And I'm looking on at Grenada. I don't have enough of a historical scope to know what exactly is going on. But my understanding and my experience is the more you tailor the festivities for the people coming in from outside, the less the people who are rooted in the country take part in it. And that is dangerous.
Yes, Bishop, it reminds me of a similar thing is what is happening to Christmas. That Christmas is such a beautiful celebration of the birth of the Lord, but then it has become so commercialized. So, but it's a very sad story about those young men and that couple from America that was so brutally murdered and thrown overboard. It's so sad when I saw the families in courts today, and the news reporter said they left right away after the sentencing. I suppose they couldn't take anything more. If you see the news, you could always get it and look at it again. But it's a weekend for this weekend and the next 2 weeks, fraught with excitement in Grenada, and we just have to pray and hope that we have no more murders, no more bad situation as we had in the recent past.
Yep. And
I rest my case so I can go to bed.
Thank you so much, Mr. Philbert. Don't go
sleep
to bed
on,
yet.
beloved.
Don't want to log off yet. And you know, as Mr. Philbert stated, you know, these things happen in our society and happens, and as one sociologist says, crime is needed for any society to functionally society.
And you believe the
People like
sociologist?
you,
It depends on what you mean by
guess
crime.
I've done research, so they say that conflict.
Yes. Conflict, but not crime necessarily.
It leads to crime. Yeah. So you know, but one thing that we can hope for is the picture that will show there, that there is still beauty in this world, as we'll see Father Daniel Schwartz on top there. The beauty. A viewer sent it in.
What is he?
A viewer watching sent it in. Father Daniel is on top of the tomb, helping them fix the slab.
On top of the tomb?
Yes, he's right there. If you look. Have you seen the person?
This is at a funeral?
Yes.
Oh. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
So
Danny Boy has skill.
So that's the beauty that we can still find in this world, that there's still human compassion. And no one is too big or too holy to.
Well, that's about more than compassion, you know. That is about an understanding of the priesthood as a very practical thing.
Yes.
And that is, you know, I mean, Grenada has known that. Grenada has known that kind of priest in the Dominicans who were there some time ago, in people like Oliver Levy and so on, you know, priests who, and that's the example we have. And I see it coming back in some of the younger guys, and I hope and pray that they carry it, you know.
So, you know, we would have had the cannabis meeting, and I'm showing that at some time it will reach to the House of Representatives.
Well, but it has to reach the people first.
Yes.
And the churches are very clear. They want the government, the commission, to bring it to the people, not to just come up and fix up a bill on the basis of a few comments, but to hear what the people have to say. One person at the meeting today was pointing out that you have to listen to the people who are working with the addicts and not simply with the people who know the law. You know, that because on a worldwide scale, one of the problems we have is that we're not really aware of the consequences of cannabis smoking in some ways. One woman put it very simply. She says, every human being is different, and cannabis affects every person differently.
Yes,
now, that is a difficult thing to legislate for, you know, and my concern is that we end up legislating for those who are able to help themselves in a way, and then a whole set of young people slip below the cracks. And this is true of the major legislation that the government is trying to introduce, because we cannot deal with it simply as something for those who are able to get help. You have to realize that there are a lot of people who need help.
Yes, and there are some people I know who actually have to use it for health reasons. So we have to take everything into consideration and see how it do not do harm, but we find some way that it does good. Well, before we take a break, I would like us to deal with the bill and our theology.
That's the bill. You were telling me the exact title of it just now.
Age of civil.
The age of consent.
Civil legal responsibility.
Yes, civil and legal. Yeah, that is a bill, but I've been surprised because people have called me about that bill very, very concerned, but also seemingly not knowing what the bill is all about. It's not about abortion, right? It's not about people who are taking that the Catholic Church is against abortion. The Catholic Church is against anything to do with sex. And this bill seemed to be having something to do with sex, so the Catholic Church must be against the bill. No, that is not the way. And I wanted us to look at this from a principle, a fundamental principle, that before we criticize anything that is proposed in the society, be sure you know what is being said, what is being stated, what is being asked for. And we in Grenada have to get away from this business of saying that everything that comes is because some foreign government is trying to impose it on our government. That is not always the case. When it is the case, okay, you make sure you have your facts right and you criticize. But we cannot have these attitudes whereby we think that because we are Christian, we must simply fall in line with the various crusades that are there in the United States about all kinds of things which have nothing to do with justice and everything to do with people seeking power. And trying to find a cause that can unite people, and then the people go and vote for them or vote against whoever they want them to vote against. No. And in this particular instance, what we're dealing with is young people and the age at which they need parents, and that's the first thing, and that's our first line that we have to draw. The church must always defend the right of parents over their children, right? There's no compromising on that. But we also have to ask ourselves, how do we help parents to exercise their rights in a just and true way? And this is one way in which we're failing, right? How do we as church people teach parents about various things so that they can guide their children to make certain decisions? But once we are doing that, we have another fallback problem, which is that many of our children are caught up in situations where they have no parents, you know. The sad part of Grenada is that whole image that is so important for the proper formation of children is that you have very few family situations in which parents are standing together in the best interest of their children. Right? I've heard a number of men say to me in recent days, no government ain't taking away my right over my child. I hear the voice, but I ask myself, where is that voice coming from? Is that voice coming from a concern for the child? Or is that voice coming from, I was your father and I have a right? And that attitude, my dear friends, leads very swiftly to another attitude. I was your father and I do what the hell I want to do with you. So we have to be very, very careful how we read these things and how we respond to them, right? And therefore, I am clear that we have to call the nation to more of a conversation about this bill, but a conversation which is not only about parents' rights, it's about how do we help the many children who do not have parents who really care and who are falling through the cracks in so many ways in our society. I wish I could say that the church is equipped to help, but a lot of church people are afraid. A lot of priests are afraid because they know what happens sometimes in the past when they try to help. But it's a call, a real challenge to the church today. Right? Not simply to get up on a high horse and claim that the government is trying to take away the rights of parents. I personally don't read that into the bill. What I see in it is we have a special situation that must be addressed from an ethical point of view. Children at risk, children who have no parents to stand up for them, and how does a government which then has a responsibility, right, after the parents, when the parents are failing, how does the government exercise that responsibility? I would like to suggest that one way is to really, through the churches and various social service groups, to build up a network of people who can enter into these situations. Maybe government ministers and so on should not be the second step.
Bishop, I've read the bill. Mm-hmm. I understand the bill is trying to remedy a situation that exists. But we also must be cognizant that there are loopholes in this.
In the bill.
And I think this is what people are trying. I understand the bill, so for me, I am 80-20 for the bill. I'm 80% for the bill.
I might say the same thing myself,
and we have to look at, while there is a good intention in the bill, for future references, how do we prevent the bill from being mistreated?
That's the problem with legislation.
And because if we look at section 3(2), notwithstanding any other law contrary, to the contrary, the minister may, in consultation with the minister responsible for health, if he or she is satisfied that there is a good cause to do so, by order published in the Gazette, provide that a minor who has attained the age of 12 years but not yet the age of 16 years shall have the legal capacity to consent any sexual or reproductive health treatment specified in that order, including the diagnostic procedures, and his or her consent shall be as effective as the minor. I understand, because there are some situations whereby there is abuse happening, and the parents do not want that, and the minor want to come forward. But then now, for future reference, if a child, it says any diagnostic procedures. And
that's a weak point in the bill, and one which I hope we can talk through a bit more, because obviously, no matter, I don't think the child is the one that you burden with the consent, but you have to have other social structures, whether it includes other relatives or whether it includes qualified people in the community. I would be very slow to lay that burden on a government minister. A minister of health who is just, let's put it this way, just a doctor, Doesn't understand the ramifications for children, doesn't understand, for example, that a child who is sexually active too early is running all kinds of risks, So we have to be able to look at these things. But to say we're not looking at it, to say that we refuse legislation, we have to look for the right legislation and ask God to guide us in that.
There's probably a clip I saw, I remembered, and I will forward it because that clip is from a series, right? It's from a medical series. But it spoke to the child, the mother and the child went in for care. And apparently the young girl had went on a vacation summer and she had used a tampon, which the mother did not want her to use. So she's in the hospital and she's afraid to tell the doctor she used a tampon. So the doctor ordered a test and the mother is like, no, you can't order a pregnancy test on her. Or you can't order an invasive test because she's not sexually active.
Because she's a virgin.
And these things happen in reality. So I understand that the bill also that sometimes children is not comfortable talking to. So this is what the bill is trying to remedy, but we also have to look at also possibility whereby it could also be abused.
Well, one of the things which churches tended to say in previous generations was that you mustn't talk about these things at all. That is encouraging children. But I don't think we can say that any longer. There's too much on TV and on that simple cell phone that you have in your hand that we can't protect our children from, so we have to deal with these things more directly.
So listeners and viewers, on that note, we'll take a break, and when we return, we'll have the gospel for Sunday and reflection, and also whatever message you may be looking forward to hearing from us.
Yes, we want to hear from you.
So we'll take a break and we'll be right back. So the producer said that you'll see Father fixing the tune.
What?
Playing with Father was fixing.
Diocesan t-shirts are available for purchase. Early bird prices. Regular adult t-shirt for $35. Children's t-shirt for $25. Or upgrade to a polo t-shirt for only $45. Call 473-459-4612 to place your order now. Let's live church, build community, and serve country. We are Grand Cath and proud.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers, to Good News Catholic Communication. You are watching Conversation with the Bishop. And we will now go into the Gospel and then follow